I'm bringing sexy back. Them other hikers don't know how to act. Yeah, no, seriously, there's a bit of language in today's video, so take care when watching. Come on into the ditch. I'm your resident ditch witch, Tine, and we're about to get witchy, whether you like it or not. Oh, not without the hiking boots. Hang on. I'm feeling all swanky today, folks. See them cashmere boot socks for like £3 in the sale shop the other day. And I also picked up another bargain there. Anyone for tennis? Right, Dave, have we got the tea and the sambos?
We do indeed. Can't leave home without them.
Have we got everything else we need?
Yeah, we do indeed, I think.
Alright, let's go. Today we are in search of the Tawn Trail. So most of you who's watching regular will know that I'm currently in residency in Tawn Art Centre, studying the epic saga on Táin Way. And now here we are going on the Táin Way, which is like a hiking trail which sort of meanders through the Cooley Mountains, where a substantial portion of the Tawn is based. You might have guessed we're slightly obsessed with it in these parts, but we've every right to be. It's an epic after all. And today we're visiting a route that I've wanted to do for a very long time. This mountain we're looking at here is Louth, quite well known, the tallest peak in County Louth. And over there we've got Barnavave. And you might notice, if you're used to approaching it from the Carlingford side, that it's the other way around, and that's because we're going to come up behind it, or at least we're going to attempt to. We want to go there to Barnavave. I'll explain a little bit more about the significance of this as we make our way upwards. So we've gained a bit of height now. I thought it was a good time to stop and explain what it is that's actually going on here. So I've been up Louth many times, I've been up Barnavave many times, and they refer to this as the saddle between the two of them because it's fairly saddle shaped. And the thing is that the Tawn Trail, I've heard people talk about it for so many years, but when you don't have a car, hiking spots like this can be really, really difficult to access because it's a long way before you hit the public transport route, and after making your way up from a roadside, you're exhausted by the time you even start the trail. So it really is just now that we have the access to the car, it's an awful lot easier to get to these places, and something I have always wanted to do since I lived in the beautiful picturesque village of Carlingford, just on the other side of this mountain a few years back. It's about half an hour's drive from Dundalk. I used to come up exploring on the mountains regularly, but I've never seen it from this side, and I've heard that this is a much easier way to approach the saddle as well. Barnavave, of course, is associated with Queen Maebh. The interesting thing about it, it actually inspired a mountain that I wrote into one of my novels, is that it's distinctly vaginal shaped. And personally, I think Louth by comparison is quite phallic. So I think the two of them sort of stuck to each other with this saddle. It feels to me like a very energetically significant place. Now I'm probably biased as well because I lived on it for so long. To me, it's always an adventure coming up here, and really any excuse at all to go visit. So let's go up and show you what it looks like from a little bit higher up. I haven't done the Tawn March myself. If you're unfamiliar with the Tawn March, it's actually a walk that was taking place every year up until lockdown, of course. A festival worth of people basically were undertaking a 7-day march from Rathcroghan in County Roscommon, which you've seen me cover before. It's where Owen Agat, the Cave of Cats, is, which is associated with the Morrigan. But Rathcroghan, of course, was Queen Maebh's own seat, where she made her home. And when she came to get the Brown Bull of Cooley, it was in order to make her own wealth equal to that of her husband's, for political reasons, okay? People say this was just because, she was fond of the drama, or she was a bit rash, or I don't know, they say all kinds of things about her, and I'm starting to think that that was all really just opinions. As far as I can make out, she had a legal basis to do it. If her wealth wasn't equal to that of her husband's, he could veto all her contracts. You know, he could like usurp her as the true leader of her own province of Connacht. So it was a bit of a problem, and she really needed the bull. And I've been really enjoying learning about her and approaching the story from a different perspective. I find it makes it an awful lot more accessible for me. And actually being out here and walking this path, which is usually walked by people every single year, I really hope to do it the next time the Táin March is on. It's really just connecting me in a deeper way with my land, with the stories of my land, with the gods and goddesses of my land. It's magic. I would say it's magic, Dave. What would you say?
Yeah, it's magic, all right.
Although I reckon it's going to be time for a cup of tea soon. What do you think?
That it is.
Yeah.
Part two, and I haven't got the time for to talk to you. For the riding of a goat and the leading of a sheep, and I won't be back till the middle of the week.
As always, if you're thinking about climbing a mountain, make sure that somebody knows where you're going and when you're planning to be back. It's quite easy to twist your ankle or take a bit of a slip or a fall up in these parts, and it can get quite remote. And if you're not there on a busy day, you might not see anybody else that evening. The other thing that you should also be super careful about up here is the other crowd, the fairies. Okay, this is a shocking bad part of the country for getting lost, okay? I am possibly thinking about doing a video in the not too distant future about the stray sod, of which I'd say there's many around these parts. That's kind of an old folkloric tradition and superstition in Ireland, where if you step on a stray sod, you could get stolen away by the fairies for an undefined period of time, in which it might seem like only a day or two has passed where you are, but you don't know how long has passed in the real world where your family and friends are. And I know people who have lived around the Cooley Mountains their whole lives and still get lost up here, okay? And not just on sort of off-trek hiking trails, but on roads, on sometimes signposted roads, sometimes in broad daylight. You know, it's a thing. Talk to people. Tell me in the comments, have you ever gotten lost in the Cooley Mountains? Obviously it didn't turn out too bad if you're still here to tell the tale, but do tell me your stories of magic and strangeness in the Cooley Mountains. I can't wait all day for them stories. Dave's just asked me if that's a wild horse up there. I saw 3 horses as we passed up here, and I would sometimes refer to horses you'd find on the mountain as wild horses, but I don't think they are. I think sometimes they belong to people maybe who live nearby or who have grazing land nearby, because I do believe this is all commonage. But unfortunately, a lot of the time, horses that you'll come across on the mountain have been abandoned by people. That is also an issue too. This seems to be a bit of a hot spot for it, just from chatting to local equine friends. It's very unfortunate, and sometimes when we have very bad conditions in the winter time, horses can actually be found starved and frozen up here. So please do consider giving to local horse shelters and charities that do actually work with and for horses and abandoned horses. If you're a fan of walking, you could do a lot worse than taking a visit up to the Coolies. And I'd recommend, if you can afford it, take an extended break, because there are so many hiking trails up here and there's a great selection. Whatever kind of skill level you're at, whether you're a beginner or you're more experienced, there's something for everybody. This is like a nice sort of 1 hour stroll pretty much from the Táin Way, which is kind of over the Glenmore side of the mountain, and it's marked on Google Maps, so it's pretty easy to find. And it's a nice gently sloping uphill walk to Barnavave. If you wanted to go a little bit harder with it, you could go up to the peak of Lough, but I don't know, will I tell my story about Lough, Dave?
Yeah, go for it.
So, back when I was just a fledgling ditch witch and I hadn't done really any hiking in mountains. I hadn't had the opportunity, and I had just moved to Carlingford, and I was completely inappropriately dressed, as you do. I think I had the skinny jeans on and all, you know, and I decided just to see if I could find my way onto the mountain, and be God be Jesus, I did. And I kept going, and I ended up on the saddle of the mountain here, and I decided that while I was up that far, you alright, Dave?
No, I'm falling, Tara walking backwards.
Go over there. Dave's playing a blinder here, walking backwards. Watch out for the shock. You know, that's probably the hardest part of the whole climb up Lough is the actual very kind of tippy top peak of it, and it's quite steep, it's quite rocky. But anyway, I had gone up this mountain without telling anybody where I was, without any equipment, any water, anything like that. Found myself at the very top thinking, you know, the logic of a non-hiker, that surely the trail, there must be a trail round the top of the mountain, that once I get up there I'll be able to see a nice easy path back down. Because you know how I feel about doubling back on myself, and after the steepest sort of climb I didn't feel like climbing back down again in my pennies boots, okay? So I kept going, and I was shin deep in heather and sludgy old bog water, because it's a bit sort of flat and mushy at the top, and I ended up having to climb down in a river which was full of very pointy stones. By that point I had my boots hanging around my neck. I definitely had manners put on me that day when I came to climbing mountains. I always make sure someone knows where I'm going now, and my warning to you would be to wear appropriate clothing, appropriate footwear, and maybe do a bit of a Google search on the route before you go. Actually, smash that like button if you'd like to see me attempt Lough again. I'll do it, but only for the likes. But yes, the Coolies are fantastic. If you're into hiking and walking holidays, then this is a walker's dream up here. The views of Carlingford Lough and Dundalk Bay are absolutely breathtaking. We're going to see a little bit of that now whenever we get up to the saddle. We're quite close to it now, and you can actually see the sort of vaginal shape of Barnavave appearing now. Obviously, okay, it's meant to be a glacial feature, where a glacier pushed through and left this shape. It's quite chalice-like, but the local myth and lore, the legends tell us that is where Queen Maebh and her army cut a path right through the top of the mountain, coming looking for this brown bull of Cooley. So it's pretty badass, and it's probably one of my favourite places in the Coolies. So we'll head up to the saddle now and see what we can see. Let's hope the clouds stay nice and clear for us so we can get the views on all sides. And we can just see appearing up ahead of us here. Can you see? Look at that. Ho ho! Those are the Mourne Mountains on the other side of Carlingford Lough. And those are in Ulster on the far side of the border. And the mountains we're on here, the Coolies, are obviously in the south. They're kind of facing each other. There's a nice symmetry between the two. And Carlingford Lough is a very liminal sort of space, I feel, because of that. Just see over there now, the Mournes, they are looking quite magical with the sunspots moving over them like that. C.S. Lewis, who wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, he is said to have based his Narnia on the mountains of Mourne, because he said, and I'm not quoting directly here, but to the effect that they're the sort of shape that you wouldn't be at all surprised at any moment to see a giant just step out from behind one of them. And I agree with him 100%. He actually spent his childhoods just across the lough. We can't really see it here, which leave Foy in the way, but he spent his childhoods at Mourne Point, I think, or possibly Ross Trevor, so he would have been very familiar with the Mourne Mountains, and he was obviously very inspired by them, as was I. But just look at that view. All those rolling hillocks and 40 shades of green. I often thought to myself, it's more like 4,000 in this country. And I'm not gonna lie, approaching from the other side makes it feel like a different place entirely. It doesn't feel like my good old saddle that I'm so familiar with. Purely just because I came from the other side, but I'm very happy now that I've done that. I know what it looks like over there, and actually it's a much more forgiving walk. The reveal is just stunning, you know? But to just appear over the ridge of the saddle there and see it is quite a treat. So shall we go into what I colloquially and probably quite incorrectly refer to as Maeve's flaps?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. Was that a bit rude? Should I not be saying that? But maybe I should refer to them as Maeve's ties instead. Now that I know a bit more, and I know how friendly her ties were said to have been, even by her own account. Maybe that's what we have, is Maeve's ties instead.
The family show, Tara.
I know, it's meant to be a family show, but sometimes the witching gets away with us a wee bit, Dave, you know. Sometimes you can't control where the magic takes you. You can see as well, if you want to go up Slieve 5 from the saddle, very clear path there. Now tell me, even from this angle where we're not quite straight on, that they don't look like two big flaps of rock jutting out of the landscape there. Do you know, it does feel distinctly like walking over a pubic mound. And okay, I know it's nothing got to do with that. It's where she came through with her army, but I just can't unsee that. Flap or no flap, tell me in the comments. And we'd like to thank Maeve anyway for welcoming us to her friendly place. I'm sure she wasn't feeling too friendly when she marched through here with her army, literally on the warpath looking for the bull, you know, trying to restore her status as queen and all. She was probably a wee bit busy to be thinking about how this might be construed. But sure, fair play to her anyway, do you know, it's a grand job, like, it's a grand job. You'd need a fair few pickaxes now to get through that, so fair play to them, you know, fair play to us all, really. I think it's particularly poignant for me, as I was saying earlier, just learning about Maeve and now actually being here in the place in County Louth which possibly has the strongest association with her, you know. And for such a big geographical feature to be attributed to her, I think, well, that's quite an honour, you know. Even if we have been saying terrible things about her for centuries. So I think we're going to stop for one more owl cuppa before we make our way homewards. Our wee reward for doing all that climbing. But sure, I mean, look at that view. It's his own reward. But thanks for coming along with us and joining in another witchy adventure. Don't forget to smash that like button directly under this video. It really, really helps out the algorithm, which in turn helps me. Thank you very, very much. And don't forget to hit subscribe for more fun and witchy adventures. I upload
Regularly.
I upload whenever I can upload, okay? And you're not going to want to miss it. Slán agus beannacht, goodbye and good luck to you.